What's up guys? Today I'm going to be talking about a little something I've been kind of thinking about recently as I've been exploring more cross+2 and kind of theory crafting what kind of last two pair situations I can get and what I realistically want to do in a solve, assuming I'm not doing some fancy stuff like froth stuff or pseudo slotting or anything like that. And a very common situation is that your last two pairs will be in diagonal slots. Now, in my opinion, it is not worth avoiding these diagonal last two slot cases. I do believe that it is better to have adjacent last two slots than it is to have diagonal last two slots for look-ahead reasons, capacity to do efficient froth stuff and pseudo slotting since you don't have to do like D2 turns, or you don't have to do as many of them. And just like execution speed, because by having both of your slots in the front, and a little something that's kind of not talked about as much, I've talked about it a bit on my channel in the past, but with front slots, using just basic RU, R prime, RU2, R prime stuff, every trigger you can do is very easy to do from home grip. So like L prime U prime L is easy, L prime UL is easy, and then L prime U2L is easy. But for back slots, it gets a little less consistent. So R prime U prime R is fine, R prime U2R is also fine, same with the lefty equivalents. But with these pairs, it's not the nicest to do these from home grip. You can of course do like a drag turn like that or a push turn. And that can be fine, but there are some cases where I do think it is genuinely better to regrip. So like something like this, I don't really think a home grip solution is particularly practical. Same for like this F12 case, I think it is realistically better to regrip. And the operative point being is that by solving a back slot as your last pair, there is a non-zero chance that the optimal, or I guess human optimal approach for that pair is going to involve a regrip. Whereas for front slots, that's not really the case. I don't really think there's any situation where you actually have to regrip for a front slot. So how does this tie in to diagonal last two slots? So in general, for last two pairs, it is pretty easy to see both pairs and choose between the two and make a decision to do one pair or the other. And I think a really solid way to go is try and solve the back slot first and then do the front slot afterwards. Now this is only assuming that you can do the back slot nicely. To give you an example, with this F2L pair here, normally if I was going to do this in a back slot and let's say this was filled, I would probably have to regrip, just because doing this from home grip isn't particularly nice to do quickly. Whereas, okay, I can't really turn right now because I haven't warmed up, but the idea is that regripping there is most likely going to be a better option. But if I were to use this empty slot, then I can do this pair in back with home grip quite easily, and I get a pretty good case for my last slot. I do have to rotate realistically, but it is still quite nice. To contrast with this pair, if I was going to do this in the back slot, there are some decent options. I can do like something like that, which isn't too bad, but it's not nearly as nice, and realistically my back slot solution for this is something like that, or maybe even something like this to make the finger tricks a little bit nicer. But the point is, on diagonal last two pairs, there is a good chance that you are going to be able to see both pairs and make a decision between the two. And I think if you see a way to solve the back slot that is nice and that is something that you're comfortable with doing in a solve, and that'll differ from person to person depending on your risk tolerance and things like that, I think it is a good idea to do that, because you increase the chances of your last pair being something that you can execute nicely from home grip. Either you will not have to rotate and be able to spam 2gen from either the front right or the front left, or you'll have to rotate, but you will still be able to rotate such that it is a front slot. Or maybe you could do like a fancy little solution like that, which will also most likely be better from front slots, which is another thing that I have noticed, not to as large of an extent, but fancy rotationalist tricks I have found feel a bit nicer when done in front slots than in back slots. And I imagine it's for similar reasons, where you're avoiding the weird R'(U)R trigger. So there you go, there's a little bit of food for thought. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.